I'm author and critic David Agranoff. I'm a horror and science fiction author, critic, and researcher. In this podcast, I wanted to provide in-depth interviews and panel discussions with everyone from New York Times bestselling authors to researchers, musicians, and anyone I find interesting. Welcome to Postcards from a Dying World. Hello and welcome to episode 184 of Postcards from a Dying World. 184. That's crazy. Issa's been here for a bunch of them. Anthony too. But we're back to doing the Unproduced Screenplay series. I took a little bit of a hiatus. I mentioned this in the last episode. Why? I was writing the sequel to The Last Night to Kill Nazis. And it's done, but also released a new book called Great America in Dead World, which is out from Choir Books. You should get it. If you want to know more about that book, go back and listen to the last episode with Keith Giles and Lord Running Clan. We talked about that book in that episode, which is available. You can get it. We haven't done an unproduced screenplay episode since we did, I think, Big Trouble in Little China, the TV movie. I had to have Issa and Anthony back. So for those of you who are yelling at me to finish this or to continue the Science Fiction Hall of Fame series, I am going to continue that series. It is coming back. The next one will be Where Scanners Live with Cordwainer Smith, or by Cordwainer Smith. And I've been kind of sort of waiting for Brian Evanson to be back in the country to do it because he's a huge Cordwainer Smith fan. And I wanted him there for it. So the hiatus, all that stuff, that's kind of why that happened. But today we are talking about a very infamous cult classic unproduced screenplay. And that is Shane Black and Fred Dekker's The Shadow Company, which we'll get into how this happened and the background for it. It was meant to be John Carpenter's follow-up to They Live in 1988. And John Carpenter didn't make a movie for 4 years around that time. And his next movie was Memoirs of an Invisible Man, which was not a great movie in 1992. So, which, you know, is partially Chevy Chase's fault, but whatever. So kind of wish this movie had happened for sure. This was, in a lot of ways, I'm going to say that it's more a Shane Black script than a Shane Black and Fred Dekker script, in the sense that Shane Black wrote the first draft by himself. The first draft, apparently in 1984, was his first attempt at a screenplay. I'm just getting into the background material, but I guess before I go into that, welcome Issa and Anthony. Anthony, you want to tell the folks who you are and why I have you here to talk about screenplays?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Anthony Trevino. I'm a writer primarily of horror and crime fiction, and a little sci-fi thrown in there. David and I, for years, co-hosted the Dickheads podcast together. We've written several screenplays and a novel together. And yeah, most recently, I've published a novella co-written with Ryan C. Thomas called Love is a Monstrous Death, which was included as part of Crystal Lake's novella series Dark Tide, Psychoactive Edition, which, yeah, if you like a goopy, crass monster squad on methamphetamines type stories, you probably will like that.
Well, and Issa is such a movie nerd that when I watched Daisy Ridley in The Cleaner the other day, Issa's the only friend of mine I know who saw it.
I saw it in the theaters, of course. Like, it was a Die Hard clone. I had to see it.
Yeah. Well, they're that much of a film nerd. I actually thought The Cleaner was pretty fun myself. Like,
yeah, it was. I'm trying to remember. It was a while ago, but it was okay. I mean, it was shamelessly Die Hard. You know, like, and yeah. Once you're just like, you know, you just enjoy the ride. It was a fun movie.
It was one rewrite away from being a very good action movie.
Yeah, it definitely had some stuff that could have been better, but it was good.
But Issa, you're a big movie nerd, and
I am a big new movie nerd. I spend a lot of time with writers. I think of myself as a writer, even though I don't have a lot of time for it these days. Would like to take that up again. And I love writing screenplays.
yeah, so we all like talking screenplays, and so one of the reasons why I have these two on is because I think it's fun to look at these unproduced screenplays and talk about them and what could have been and what might have been.
David, when you said cleaner, I thought you meant the 2021 movie Clean with Adrian Brody. Did you guys see that?
I didn't see that one.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. Cleaner is Daisy Ridley in a absolute diehard clone from Martin Campbell, director of many James Bond movies.
Mm.
But and I actually kind of liked it. It's stupid, but
It's good stupid. It's the right kind.
stupid. Yeah, it's the right kind of stupid. But I watched Punisher Warzone the other day. So
Hey, listen. I am a noted Punisher Warzone apologist. I think that if it weren't for the terrible Jigsaw performance, that's actually a solid Punisher movie.
I thought the terrible Jigsaw performance was a feature, not a bug. But
no, but I mean that movie's nuts.
that movie is nuts. It is worth seeing, and it's streaming free on Pluto if anyone wants to investigate.
Of course it is.
Yeah, and so anyways, but in 1984, a young wannabe writer named Shane Black, who of course Shane Black went on to be one of the highest paid screenwriters in the history of the medium, went on to write Lethal Weapon. Not all the Lethal Weapon movies, but he wrote the original Lethal Weapon. He's the originator of the project. He wrote The Long Kiss Goodnight. He wrote
which is a surprisingly good movie. Like that.
I love that movie.
Even better screenplay, by the way, if you get a chance to read it.
That's my favorite Gina Davis movie. She's fucking great in it.
Oh, she's fantastic in that.
Yeah, great movie. Yeah. The Last Boy Scout is a Shane Black movie. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, one of the greatest movies ever. The Nice Guys, and he and Fred Dekker, who wrote this screenplay, wrote The Predator together, and Monster Squad.
And you have to mention Last Action Hero, which is
Last Action Hero. You were not thumbing down Monster Squad. You were thumbing down The Predator, right?
I was technically thumbing down both, but that's okay.
Well, Monster Squad.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't know. So Monster Squad is this era because that was their most recent movie right before this. But it was the success of Lethal Weapon that put this screenplay in front of John Carpenter for sure. But in 1984, he wrote a draft of the screenplay, and that draft he described as a cross between Platoon and The Exorcist. It's very different from the script that we read, and one of the reasons why it gets the Exorcist description is that the Shadow Company were not zombies. In that version, they were ghosts, and they were haunting the families, and it was a little bit more of a serious screenplay, supposedly. But that was Shane Black's first attempt, and then around that time, his at one point roommate and close friend Fred Dekker. Is it Dekker or Dekker?
Dekker.
Pretty sure it's Dekker.
Dekker. Yeah, Fred Dekker. Made his directorial debut with Night of the Creeps, which is a classic low budget VHS horror movie that was also one that those of us who had HBO in that era saw many times on HBO. And then they worked together on the screenplay for Monster Squad around the same time that Shane Black sold Lethal Weapon, which was a record-setting screenplay as far as the amount of money he got paid for the screenplay. And then he broke his own record with The Last Boy Scout, apparently. Because while Lethal Weapon was in theaters, The Last Boy Scout sold for an insane amount of money. I don't remember the exact amount. It doesn't matter. But around that time, in October of 1988. This draft by Black and Dekker, Shane Black and
Nice.
Fred Dekker, was written, and it was to be now John Carpenter had just finished back-to-back movies for Universal. He did Prince of Darkness and They Live back to back, pretty much making them one after the other. And unfortunately, both were not financial successes, which is weird to think about now because we consider both those movies to be classics. But They Live was a big bomb at the box office because I think most people didn't understand how to get it at the time. So the word of mouth was like, I don't know about this movie. I saw both opening weekends back in the day when they came out. So
Me too.
yeah, and I loved both.
I did not, by the way. I was like a baby.
Yeah, well, good for you. But the last hit that John Carpenter had before this was Big Trouble in Little China. And so his this project was supposed to be in part the big reunion between the very bankable combination of Kurt Russell and John Carpenter together. And they both circled the project. And there's been a lot of fan casting out there of like, like Donald Pleasance playing General Woodhurst, and like Tom Atkins being the sheriff, who, of course, Tom Atkins is in both Carpenter movies and Shane Black movies. He was in Lethal Weapon as well.
I feel like that role's not big enough for Tom Atkins. Tom Atkins has too much star power to be in such a little role.
I think he has too much star power to you, but I don't know about like the rest of the world.
That's probably pretty fair. That's a fair statement.
Yeah. I went back and rewatched Lethal Weapon last night, or at least most of it. When was the last time either of you guys saw Lethal Weapon? Because
the first one, right?
I've seen it a lot. I feel like I wouldn't remember more if I saw it again.
Yeah, I grew up with it. Like I watched that movie constantly growing up. So
well, it's crazy to me that I'm getting too old for this shit. Danny Glover was only 40 years old when he filmed it, and was playing a 50-year-old, and he was having his 50th birthday party. Of course, he must have been born on Christmas Eve because it's a Shane Black movie.
That's right.
And one of the things I found about it was that it was funnier than I remembered. I definitely think the final draft defanged some of the Shane Black humor. The last pass on the screenplay was Jeffrey Boehm, who's known for writing The Lost Boys and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And so some of the quips and some of the humor and some of the Shane Blackerisms are a little toned down because I guess the directive Jeffrey Boehm was given was that the script is too comedic, which, of course, I think the actors kind of played back up some of the comedy. And one of the trivia that I read was that when that last script got kind of put in, that Mel Gibson and Danny Glover were both kind of annoyed with the last draft. And so I don't know if that's true. That's just what I read. But, Lethal Weapon, I think, holds up pretty well. It's a pretty great movie. But it does not have the humor level of like Long Kiss or the Long Kiss Goodnight. That's what it was.
There you go.
Sorry.
Did you get a concussion?
No, I did not. And Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Nice Guys, those are all very, very funny movies.
I think The Last Boy Scout's pretty funny too.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the strongest of those movies, but I think it's a pretty solid. But that also, you have Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans in his like 90s prime.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and one thing that you can see is the difference between Shane Black's first I didn't read Shane Black's first script for this, but from everything that I've read, um, he was trying to write a very serious horror movie. And um, I think he was trying to write something a little bit more comedic with this second draft. And there, I think they're trying to get into the I think they're trying to go for the Big Trouble in Little China vibe, for mixing it with Carpenter and Russell, and that Russell is really good at doing comedy, especially in that era. And by the way, I should note on a Big Trouble in Little China note that I was in San Francisco a couple weekends ago, and I walked around Chinatown, for reasons, and I could not stop quoting Big Trouble in Little China the whole time I was there. And I was with a big group of people, and only one other person there had really seen Big Trouble in Little China, and it really made me mad because I'm like sitting there saying, "Hey, we really shook the pillars of heaven," and like all this stuff, and only one other guy was like laughing and got it, so I was like kind of bummed. But you cannot walk around.
It's almost like you were there with a very specific group of people.
Yeah, I was there with the dickheads, with the PKD people. And,
oh, come on. You telling me Gil didn't get it?
He didn't. He didn't.
Oh, wow. Surprise.
He's not a Big Trouble in Little China guy. I was shocked. But it was funny too because I had to send the Egg Shen giving the tour of Chinatown scene to everyone on YouTube to make them just be like, "Hey, you just walked around Chinatown. You want to watch this?" And but anyways, I'm digressing. So it looked like the cast of this movie was going to be a lot of the John Carpenter players, but definitely Kurt Russell was going to be playing Pollard, the hero. I think that there's no question of that.
Yeah.
Who do you think would make a good? I guess maybe we should just get into breaking down the script and just throw in who you think could play people as you go. Issa, do you want to give a summary of what you thought this screenplay was about?
Yeah, sure. So first, I just want to say that this is a screenplay that didn't get made, but it feels like it got made when you read it because there's not a single scene that you haven't seen in another movie. And I almost felt reading it, it brought me back to the 80s. And I felt like I could just, really have put together like a supercut of a bunch of movies and made this movie just with some editing software. And I say that in a good way. If this came out with this script today, not so great. But if I picture myself being like 16 in 1988, I would have seen this opening night and loved it. It was right, hit all the right notes. But basically we have a Vietnam tale, which was a very popular thing in the 80s. You get all the classics of soldiers in Vietnam being done wrong by the government and the army turned their back on them.
The cops and Lethal Weapon were both vets too.
Yeah, exactly. Like Vietnam was a big deal in 1988 still, then it has how much of a synopsis do you want me to give here? Like
a general.
Okay, I assume we're not spoiling anything, but we touch on themes of, what's the best way to explain it? So super soldiers attempted to be created in Vietnam, go crazy back in the US and kill a bunch of people. And mixed into that, we have a soldier, our hero, Kurt Russell's character, who is secretly one of the super soldiers, but for whatever reason wasn't activated and is defending.
Wasn't sent on the mission.
He didn't go on the mission, right? Yeah. I guess we get they went on this one final mission where they were all killed and sequestered and unable to be brought back to life with Agent Orange, which was a nice touch. And the Kurt Russell character, Pollard, he was still a good guy, but he still had some super soldier powers. And we meet the children of this was a little strange. We have a part with the children of the soldiers. And then there's a lot of action.
Yeah. So part
My
of it is that they were
Hey,
sent on this last mission in the last night of the war to Cambodia, or when America was about to surrender, they get sent to Cambodia, and then so they end up like killed and left, which I thought was a nice touch, in this temple in Cambodia. And there's a whole scene in the there's a really great scene in the beginning where they're all like playing cards, and then Pollard, um, I can't remember exactly why, but like he doesn't get sent on the mission because of something that goes on. Something happens in the card game, um, and but there's I thought the whole flashback and the early scenes in Vietnam were great. I don't know. How did you, Anthony? I felt like these parts, just the way it was written, just screamed stuff Anthony would enjoy.
Of course. Yeah, no, I loved it. I think those scenes are probably the top of my favorite scenes in the script. Um, it's very vaguely supernatural. It's I can feel the sweatiness of the environment. I like the way the script was written. I like Shane Black's style. Um, and yeah, I think it's a solid opener. I felt like tonally it became a less serious movie. Like that feels like the most serious part of the movie to me, or of the
Right.
script. And then later becomes like, as it progresses, it definitely becomes this more comedic, sillier script, which isn't bad. It just felt like a little bit of a tonal shift. Like it starts very dark,
Yeah, and
right?
it seems like that's what Shane Black brought Fred Dekker on to do, was to make it a little sillier, because that's, I think, what the studio wanted. Like I said, I think they were going for some kind of Big Trouble in Little China vibe, and I think they thought, because like, hey, these guys wrote Night of the Creeps and Monster Squad, you know, these are the guys who wrote The Wolfman's Got Nards, that, like, hopefully they'll bring some kind of silliness to it. And but all the opening scenes are just really powerful. So one of the things we're going to try to do is we're going to look at the script. I'm going to share a screen so people can see it, but that makes it a little wonky for me reading. So we'll see how this works. The first scene I want to bring up is from that part of it. And let's see. Um, uh, so this is a scene where they're actually playing cards, and I think uh, yeah, I like what you said, Anthony, about how it all kind of comes. It all feels a little bit uh, sweaty and hot, and you can kind of get the feel of what's going on in there. And I like, um, let's see. I'm sorry, this is great podcasting where I'm scrolling.
I mean, just
Um,
let me know what page you want to read, and I mean, maybe like Issa and I can read it if there's dialogue. I don't know. That way you don't have to.
okay, on page, I have page 4. There's you or me is the scene that I have in my notes. You see the
My page 4 says
6 American commandos surround a poker table. Oh, that's page 3. Sorry, the PDF is numbered differently than
yeah.
the script pages. That's convenient.
my
Uh,
page 4 starts with look. He pulls up a chair. I
yeah,
outrank you, and my cash is on the table getting cold. That's where my page 4 starts.
Yeah. Yeah, let's look at that.
That whole page, or
Yeah, let's just look at that page for a second.
okay.
Um, sorry, my
No, you're good. If this was audio only, we could just edit this out.
yeah, I know it would be, well, the audio will be, yeah. So I like some of this whole stuff, um, like Nico here, like, Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, okay, I get it. I'm supposed to be scared, right? This is the scary part. Like all this kind of tough guy stuff that's going on, that
Mhm.
um kind of gives it that, like, Shane Black's very good at this stuff. And I think, like, everything, we get so much excellent view of what the soldiers are like here, and they all get personalities, and they all get like a little bit of play. So when they come back as kind of zombies, we know a little bit about them. And I
You know,
think
I have to say that this was the one thing about the script that I actually didn't like, was
Oh,
that
cool. Cool.
it's like the classic screenplay writing advice, like I forget the where this comes from originally, but it's just like the add an eye patch and a limp to give each character their own, whatever. Like this was literally just that. Like I thought there were too many of the soldiers to make them have enough of a part each, and I that was my initial thought was, I wish it was just like three of them instead of seven, 6 or 7. It would be easier to tell them apart. But there's like sunglasses guy, there's like finger cut off guy, playing card guy, and I forget the others, but they each had an eye patch and a limp, and I thought it was just really it was really budget, I thought.
Issa, I have a question for you regarding that. Do you think that that's reading it that way makes it confusing, than that it still would translate better to film, or do you think it's kind of lame both ways?
That's a really good point. It probably would have worked better as a visual, when you actually can see the characters. I didn't really think about that. That's a really good point.
Well,
right,
I
and
had
so
to, because
here it
I
is.
struggled keeping track too. So I was just curious. Like I was like, I think maybe if I was like watching the movie and my brain would go, that's the guy with the sunglasses. That guy is
Yeah,
one figure. But reading it, it's like, holy shit, how many people are in this fucking room?
totally.
Right, and this is this.
Yeah.
I've pulled up the page where they're in the passenger hold, and we see each of them. And he says we super their name, rank, and serial number. That means they put it on the screen.
Right.
Armbuster, and then we got Stockton. The name Doris is embroidered in a pink heart on his fatigue jacket. I kind of like that.
I gotta
Perez.
say, guys, I can't see a scene like this anymore in my life and not just think of Predator.
Totally.
Right.
Every scene in a helicopter with army with any type of military band, I'm just in the beginning of Predator.
Now,
I'm
and
telling you, you could literally supercut this script together with Predator and a few other movies.
Right.
yeah, and then Noonan is the guy in the Knicks cap who's listening to the New York Boston game on Armed Forces Radio. Um, and then so all of them, he's got his perpetual headband guy, and then
Flamethrower guy.
Stark gives him the mission. He gives him the mission. 3 weeks ago, a ceasefire agreement was signed with the North Vietnamese. This means that the mission you men are about to undertake does not exist, nor do you exist. You are not ordinary soldiers. Your training has purged you of the true enemies: fear, pity, conscience. This mission will have no questions, no allies, and above all, no friendlies. Um, who do you think could play Stark? Who would be a good Stark in the 80s, 1988?
I mean, I was reading this in the now, thinking it was very John Kreese Cobra Kai, just because that's
Yeah.
sort of the thing of the moment. But I don't know who I would have do it back in the 80s.
How about a young Willem Dafoe, or like fresh off Platoon, or maybe if you're gonna go a little bit, how about keep it Shane Black and go Gary Busey in
That's
that
a good
era.
I mean, that's a good one. I mean, I kept seeing like Donald Sutherland, but
Oh, like
um,
yeah, well, in that era, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. But I love this scene. I think it's part of your whole supercut thing,
Yeah.
Issa, that you're talking about. It's and oh, and I forgot I mentioned this before, but one of my favorite action descriptions is like when they're in the brothel and the fight breaks out. There's an actual paragraph description, and this is literally all it says: doors open, period. Johns appear, period. Whores scream, period.
What more do you need? What more do you need?
It paints the picture.
As far as the screenplay goes, I need nothing beyond that. And quite frankly, it reminded me of the third act of Rolling Thunder, which, if you guys haven't seen, Rolling Thunder's a banger.
That's a good movie.
So then we jump ahead in the screenplay to 16 years later, present day, at the time. It's Christmas, of course. It's a Shane Black script. So everything always takes place on Christmas for Shane Black. I know I've heard him talk about why, but I don't remember. I think he likes that it gives like a feeling, and once he did it a couple times, he just did it all the time. The Vietnam vet Santa with one leg is a nice touch.
It's funny that I realized, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a Shane Black script, so duh, that this would be Christmas.
Yeah.
We meet Jake Pollard, 41, the loneliest man in the world. 3-day stubble, movie star, handsome but hardened. Maybe like he's seen more than a man really should. Again, exactly what you need. Doesn't really do much more, but this is our introduction to older Kurt Russell in this part. He would have probably I don't know, is Pollard actually in the earlier scenes, or I don't.
No,
he's not.
I was a little confused when I read this. I had to go back and look, but I thought that Pollard, like the character at the beginning, his name I think is Nicky or something. He dies. Nico. He dies at the end. I didn't. It was very his death was very confusing, and I thought maybe Pollard was Nico. So because it did the whole 16 years later kind of thing or whatever, but it wasn't. Totally different guy. This is the first time we meet Pollard. At least I think so. Although he might have been at the poker table somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. We have this whole scene here with the guy in the restaurant calling Pollard a baby killer. And Pollard says, "It's Christmas. How about a little peace on earth?" And then I love this description. "One thing about assholes, never try to reason with them." The guy rises. A little wisdom in the screenplay from Shane Black. Never try to reason with assholes. Patron with an attitude. "Whatever you say, soldier," or should I say, baby killer. Then Pollard's hand shoots out like a bolt of lightning, grabbing the guy by the collar and jerking his face to within inches, looking him square in the eye for the first time. And color drains from the guy's face because something in Pollard's eyes is different. His voice lowers and he says, "No, you shouldn't." And then at a conveniently timed moment, the TV announces on the news that the bodies of the Shadow Company have been found in the temple in Cambodia, and they're going to be coming home. So this sets up that Pollard.
David, sorry to interrupt, but just seeing this again, this makes so much more sense now that you say there was an earlier version that was more supernatural and stuff.
Yeah.
Because we have this ancient temple. Later on, there's some crucifix stuff that doesn't really make any sense in the script, so that all sort of goes together. I see that now. Like you can see the remnants of that earlier.
Right. So the name of these soldiers will be revealed at a press conference tomorrow in Merritt, California, and that's how we know that they're coming back to Merritt, which is where the action takes place. And then so we have the whole armed MP. There's General Woodhurst comes to claim the bodies, and Woodhurst. So there's the 6 corpses in plastic bodies with tags on their feet, and then I think the next page is where I really. So Woodhurst. Now this is where in some of the fan casting, I saw that they had Donald Pleasance as Woodhurst, but I don't see that at all.
I don't either.
Yeah, we need more of a kind of tough guy, aging tough guy, um, like like a fucking Lee Marvin type would be.
Yeah.
I was thinking like Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men.
Something like that, yeah. And so so they've so Woodhurst says here, nah, not like these sellouts in Washington. They're the ones that let you down, let us all down, betrayed the trust. Then he unzips the body bags, revealing and then I don't say what. Well, anyways, Woodhurst says they made him. They even made him a general to try and make up for pulling the plug on you. They didn't understand, but they will. They'll learn. Just you watch. Welcome home, boys. He looks at the corpse with affection. He slips on a hood and visor, picks up a canister, which we discover is Agent Orange, right? And begins spraying the fine mist all over them. And then the Agent Orange is what wakes them up. Vietnamese man from the depot picks up a plastic snowman, which lies on top of so much dirt. Let's see. And then we got Porter says these men are not dead. I don't know. Anyways, what do you think about this? I love the touch of the Agent Orange, like waking them up. What did you guys think of that?
Yeah, like it was a little bizarre, but I mean, any mention of Agent Orange for that era is going to be pretty funny. But so the plan was that these soldiers had to be killed to enable their final form. And so they were going to go on this mission. It was a suicide mission. They would die. And then when Agent Orange got sprayed on them, because we were just spraying Agent Orange everywhere, they would come back to life.
Right.
And be super soldiers, which seems a little stupid as a plot device. Like, why not just shoot them at home and make them super soldiers? Like, I don't know. I didn't quite understand why they needed that extra step. But Agent Orange, cool.
Yeah, that was fine. I mean, it was pretty like in a genre film such as this, I expect something silly like that, so yeah. I roll with it. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and so we get the introduction of the teens, Kyle and Heather, who are the kids of the Shadow Company, and they talk about like their fathers who were lost in Vietnam, and talk about how they don't even have bodies, and but
these were like my least favorite. Like the kids are like the least interesting characters of the whole script. Like
they didn't work. They didn't work at all.
Now, anytime they show up, I'm like, this just kills the momentum of the movie for me. Except for when they're like gunning through the streets to try to, and there's a lot of action happening, fine. But like overall, like when the more quieter, more serious moments, it just fell so fucking flat. It just stops it like dead in its tracks for me.
Agreed completely. If you go back to where you just were scrolling their first conversation in the restaurant, it's like no teenagers have ever talked like that ever. And it was so off-putting that I was just like, what is going on here? Like that they needed a rewrite for sure. Like I hope this wasn't like an actual like shooting script with the dialogue dialed in yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. And then so we have the scene here that's on the screen where Pollard meets Kyle, who we will later learn is his son. So he's talking about his own car because he's he's like, nice wheels, Charger. And then he says 67 belonged to my dad. And Pollard says, no kidding. That's his car. That's his son. And that scene has more meaning later when you know that. But it's a little better than I mean, I think with the right actors doing the scene, that could be okay. In a script, it's kind of just like whatever.
Did you guys figure out that twist that he's the father earlier in the script, or did you get revealed when the script revealed it?
I guessed that he was the father.
Yeah,
pretty early on. I don't remember what moment, but
It seemed obvious why else you have these kids in this story, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I thought it was a decently done twist with good build up.
Well, at first I thought it wasn't. I kind of believed it when he's like, "Oh, I like served with your dad," and I was like, "Oh, maybe they won't make it the dad." But then as kind of the script kind of plods along, I was like, There's just no reason for him to be this motivated to do any of this
Yeah.
if
What
without
what
that."
got me was that it was I figured out the that he was one of the super soldiers because he kept getting shot, like even more
Right.
just like normal 80s movies hero gets shot kind of things, you know what I mean? Like in an 80s movie the hero's supposed to get shot in the arm or the shoulder, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just
But
normal.
hmm
But he
I
got shot
figured
like
that when
10
he's
times.
yeah, when he's running away from the helicopter and he keeps getting shot over
Yeah.
and over, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
He's
totally.
the seventh soldier then. Got it.
yeah,
Yeah, it has to
I've
be.
seen a movie or two in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, just to go back to Lethal Weapon really quickly, one of the things that was great about that script was that it was so cliche, but it also redefined the buddy cop genre movie. You know what I mean? Like there was
Mhm.
nothing in it that you hadn't necessarily seen before, but it was like the new standard against which buddy cop movies were kind of rated. And so I try to give this like a little more credit than it has on the page in 2025 because you know I think this is super cliche, but I think it would have been part of the origination of the cliche had it come out in 1988.
yeah. And here we get the scene at the cemetery, and I think in the right director's hands, maybe um, uh, Carpenter could have given it some gravitas, some creep factor, but
I feel like Carpenter would have done a pass on the script himself too. That kind of would have helped. I don't know.
probably
I don't like a lot of the humor in the script, so I don't know. I feel like Carpenter's style of humor that's pretty prevalent in something like They Live would have helped kind of endear me to it more. But
yeah. So
I
here,
can't see him shooting this script as is though.
Yeah,
no, probably not. So the two long dead hands shoot out from the crumbling earth and grab the rifle as the sentry bolts back, gasping. The gleaming bayonet poised directly beneath him plunges upward. The man shrieks to wake the dead as he stands, suddenly impaled like a butterfly by a combat M1A. Automatic gunfire rips upward. That's a pretty shitty way to go just for being a guard of a cemetery. Um, Bullets blow out through the sentry's chest. He struggles frantically, thrashes. He unholsters his sidearm and pumps two into the grave. He opens his mouth in a silent scream. A figure emerges from the soggy earth, clutching the rifle. Um, and then we get a long shot of the cemetery. A clasp of lightning shows us six shadowy, naked figures rising from the mud, surrounding the hapless sentry. His screams drowned out by the sound of thunder.
his
The
screams
Shadow Company has returned.
after he's been shot like 500 times by an auto.
Yeah. So the sheriff is gets to be the hapless stepdad, which there's a lot of hapless stepdads in 80s movies.
Totally.
And
The
he's
best
trying.
part is my favorite thing in the whole script is that the other daughter's name is Kim, and later they only refer to her as Little Kim, which just cracked me up every single time.
Yeah.
Different movie.
Yeah. So then we had the scene where they kind of like wake up and they start grabbing all their guns, which this could be I don't know if John Carpenter is the right director for this, but a scene where they're all where the zombies are all arming themselves is such an 80s movie thing.
Like Commando or whatever. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so you got I love this, two dead centuries sitting at a poker table, their last game in eternal progress before them, cigarettes smoldering in an ashtray. I like the idea that they're just sitting there dead with their poker game half done. I like the way that was written. And then we see wearing a pair of mirrored aviator sunglasses, the mirrored kind, you can't see his eyes. This was once Armburster. On the radio, several decals, one of which is the evil cigar smoking Woody Woodpecker. So here we're getting all of our things to show us who they are.
Yeah.
Which one?
I just realized Armbuster was Armbruster earlier, and so now he's Armbuster.
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
Okay.
there's plenty of typos in the script.
Oh yeah, for sure.
My favorite thing is the radio comes on. This was the thing that made me laugh the loudest when I read it. The radio voice comes on. Larry Bird puts it up and score with an 86-50 lead in the fourth quarter. It doesn't look good for the New York Knicks. Upon hearing this, a new fourth member of the company, Noonan, turns and obliterates the radio with his M16.
Why is
serious
Bird in
Knicks
quotes?
fan?
I couldn't figure out why Bird was in quotes. I actually spent some time trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, that was weird to me too.
Yeah, I don't know what Larry Bird is, but
maybe just to denote that it's a nickname and not but it's not a nickname. It's his real last name. Yeah, so never mind. Ignore my stupid thought.
Yeah, I don't know why. But a Knicks fan coming back from the dead and discovering that Larry Bird exists, it would be pretty frustrating. So, yeah, so they get all their weapons. This was all good stuff. What do you guys think about the squad getting their weapons and coming back? I thought that was a great scene.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. That's another thing I could definitely just picture very easily because I've seen it before.
Yeah. The next, okay. So I liked this scene right here. Pollard grabs some shells, kablam, blows McCall's arm off at the shoulder. Not clean. Buckshot appears. So this is Pollard first seeing the like zombie versions of his old friends. And I love Pollard swears, pumps the shotgun and fires again. Kablam. McCall's head kicks once, and we see part of his face being ripped off, but the thing keeps coming. Pollard frantically grabs and chambers more shells. I love Pollard saying, "Go down, McCall, go down." You know, like he's shooting him, and he's like, fucking go down. I love that. I thought that could be really, really well done in the movie. I don't know. What do you guys think of that scene? Because I thought it was great.
Yeah, that was the first time we really established that the bad guys are hard to kill. You know, that was like our power reveal or whatever level of unkillableness reveal, like what it takes to kill them. So that was an interesting scene.
I liked it.
Yeah. Stark and Woodhurst have like their whole scene where they talk about, Woodhurst says, "You should rejoice, Garrett. Our boys have come home, and they've brought the war home to those who betrayed it." And then Woodhurst says, "Don't you see, Major?" He jacks the clip in. "It's Judgment Night."
I forgot about that line.
Yeah. Well, and this whole idea of the Vietnam War coming home is a genre in itself. We got Rolling Thunder, First Blood, but there's a good reason for that genre to exist, because like that was a huge part of the protest movement, was trying to get Americans to understand like this war that their country was fighting overseas. So I actually like that. I think that whole scene is pretty good.
Yeah.
We get some backstory coming up on, I believe it's there's a look, dickwad.
And I Don't Know You from Adam, which was another good one.
Yeah. Pollard says Pollard gives his backstory. This is Lieutenant Jack Pollard, Special Forces. And then he records, they have this whole scene where he records his backstory, and he says, "To the best of my recollection, it was early 65. Some people in Washington started to figure out Vietnam might have been a mistake. So Warhawk named Woodhurst, Colonel Philip L., he came up with a theory that the problem wasn't Johnson sending our boys over there. The problem was them dying. Pollard stares at Kyle with eyes that seem to glow like burning embers. That's great. Great evocative screenplay writing. April 1970, Woodhurst commissioned a team of scientists for a project so secret, so classified. Almost nobody in the Pentagon even knew it existed. Camera creeps in slowly on Pollard. 20 men assembled from 17 Special Forces units, a 2-year training program, drugs, weird hybrids of PCP and hormones.
Let me ask you something, you guys, something about this scene. Because I honestly felt like this scene was pretty unnecessary, because I already get all this exposition when Stark and Woodhurst are watching the videos in that briefing room together. So like,
again,
doesn't it just seem like, I don't know, it felt redundant, and I kind of liked the visual aids better than just him recounting it on the voice recorder. Grant, like, I feel like you get one or the other, but I don't know how do you guys feel about that?
Here's what I feel about it. If in Kurt Russell's hands, this would be a classic scene with him, like, kind of, I mean, I think he would have tweaked the dialogue a little bit and he would have given the performance something, but like a haggard, like shot up, just like fought a bunch of zombies, Kurt Russell, like sitting there with a drink and like going, explaining it would give it a little bit of gravitas and humor that would have brought something to it. I don't know, but that's just me. I don't know. What do you feel?
I thought it was surprising when I read it, because I did feel like we'd already done this with the old films. And I this is kind of a nitpick, but whatever. It just seemed like the conversation here feels very forced. Kyle, who is 17, is like, "That's when Nixon pulled us out of Vietnam." Like,
yeah.
I learned that in high school history class, but it's still just, it's just like, that's what you took away from this whole thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, not that the government was making unkillable super soldiers.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, here's my history fact. It is a lot of exposition that I feel like we've mostly already had, but I agree with David that in Kurt Russell's hands, it would be fun to watch.
Sure, yeah, especially this part right here, because then he gets to name the movie. The unit was called Shadow Company, and Phase 1 was
that's the name of the movie.
Yeah. No, this part's in your trailer. You're gonna have CCR playing "Run to the Jungle," right?
Oh, of course.
You're gonna show the helicopters passing, and then you're gonna have the voiceover of Kurt Russell saying, "The unit was called Shadow Company, and Phase 1 was launched in February '73. Targetable staff officers sent behind enemy lines, killed in their tracks by the VCs, except for Phase 1 had a code name."
A-Team music in the background.
Yeah. You'd have, I think you had the CCR song.
You gotta have CCR.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about you guys, but I turned that CCR song on when I started reading the screenplay because it told me to.
I thought about it. I almost did it.
Like the Nazis all over again, they were trying to make Superman, only this time it worked. And that part's going to be in the trailer too. Not all of it, but that part there at the end. Yeah, I think this part depends on the actor. This part depends on Kurt Russell selling it, and I believe Kurt Russell could do it.
Definitely.
Of course.
Yeah. And then we kind of get, let's see. So the next part that I really have that I have is just a funny part. But is there anything about this middle part of the script when the action starts that you guys want to talk about?
The only thing that stood out to me was, man, Fred Dekker and Shane Black really like having these big blowout action set pieces set in like a small town where the military shows up.
Totally.
That is what I took away from it mostly.
Yeah. And I like, here we got Arm Brewster again here.
Yeah.
He's Brewster here again. The no friendlies line before, which is just to remind us that, like, hey, they're gonna fucking kill everyone. and then our Burster gets to ask Pollard if he'll join us again. You know, um, I'll never join you. And let's see, the next part that I have in my notes is page 82. So I got a while before we do anything, but so we do get bogged down with a little bit of the kids and the sheriff,
Yeah.
and that's definitely a problem in the
These
middle.
characters they just didn't have a role in the script, like that.
Yeah.
You could see another version where they would, but they don't in this version.
Yeah, I think
it's such a slog.
I think what they were trying to do was to give Pollard and the sheriff, like, I gotta save my kids kind of thing. Like, I think that's
kind of, but everybody
well,
just.
Well, go ahead, Anthony.
I was just gonna say, well, the sheriff does a terrible job of that.
Yeah.
So. He does. And then let's see. I'm almost to the next part that I have in my notes, which is let's see. So we get into more of the battle stuff, like the market downtown. We need a fucking miracle. I don't know, kid. I'm fresh out of miracles.
But I got a
big fucking gun.
Yeah, that's as 80s as it gets.
Hey, look, that was my favorite line of the whole script. Hold on. I know I said I was about to run to the bathroom, but you stole the line I was going to bring up. That's the best line of the whole script.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm fresh out of miracles, but I got a big fucking gun.
I was like, welcome back.
You can imagine every 80s action star saying that line,
Yeah, and you got to cock the gun before you say it. It's great. Look, I'm always a sucker for shit like that.
Totally. Yeah, he cocks the Mossberg before he says it. Yeah, that's definitely you see that, and then that's the I'm all out of bubblegum line from
totally.
Yeah, and I think once we get into the action here, I mean, you can see a lot of this stuff being like completely like 80s stuff.
Yeah.
And a good time to talk about something that I don't think means anything to Anthony, but there was something in the description that caught my eye. That I think might be on I have page 86. Let's see. So once, oh, here it is. He's impaled by the falling steel like a Veg-O-Matic. Do you know what a Veg-O-Matic is?
Oh, yeah, of course. I used to see the infomercials.
Right. But I think, wasn't it the Dan Aykroyd joke thing from, or was it a real thing? It was.
No, I think it was a real thing. What's the Dan Aykroyd joke you're thinking of?
Where he put the fish in the blender?
Oh, now I'm doubting myself. I
think the Veg-O-Matic was the joke from Saturday Night Live, but
I'm gonna Google it right now.
But yeah, he's impaled by the fall in the blood curdling inhuman scream. Just on this page,
no, it's what I remembered, except it's not spelled D, it's just VEG, Veg-O-Matic. But it was just like a choppy thing where you like slice all the things at once.
Right.
You can slice a whole apple or whatever all at once with the thing, like a plunger. That's what I thought when I read it, which makes sense in the context of what was happening. So
yeah. But what I like about, if you just look at this page, I really like how all the action is written in this script.
Yeah.
It's very evocative, and just like 2 lines down there. As we hear a hollow clunk above him, Noonan's boot step on the manhole cover. Pollard snaps shut the M79 and whips it up. I just like everything is
it's very concise.
It's very concise, but it's I think it's really it's pretty well done.
The Dan Aykroyd thing was the Bassomatic.
Bassomatic, yeah. Yeah. I was thinking, I was like, did he just make a reference to the Bassomatic? But I guess I had it wrong.
Yeah, they used to have commercials on all the time for the Vegematic. I remember those well.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have the reveal of the dad scene. You told me there were seven. There were seven. So who are you? Pollard explodes. Fuck, all right, I lied. Okay? I lied about Russ Traeger or Woodhurst didn't kill him. Are you happy? You son of a bitch, he's alive, isn't he? And then Pollard says it.
He's
He's
me.
me.
He's me.
He's
Nice.
me. I'm Russ Traeger.
I can really hear Kurt Russell delivering that line in almost a Jack Burton-esque way, though.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I like this scene. And then he says, it's okay, Kyle. He grabs his son's hand. It's just pain, son. It's just pain. You're gonna die, aren't you? And then he says, no, as long as you remember me, I won't. Now go. And then he calls him, Dad, please. He's like, that's an order. And so, you get the first time he calls, and then he calls him son. When I die, and if they find my body, I want you to burn me, understand? And I actually like all this reveal. I think, again, you have to kind of put it in a Kurt Russell context.
Totally.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Is there anything else you guys want to see in the script, or can we just talk about it?
It's Kurt Russell. It's a Big Trouble in Little China after he's had the potion. Like that's the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. And I overall, these are some of my favorite scenes. I think definitely the I'm all out of miracles, but I got a big fucking gun was definitely the best line. I loved the Nick scene. I liked him telling McCall to go down, just go down. Like he's shooting him and he's like, go down. These are some of the funniest moments in the script. I like the resurrection scene at the cemetery. That's one set piece I really like. And then, of course, I think the first 17 pages, all in Vietnam, is when the script is absolutely the best. So that's how. Those are to me the best moments of the script. What about you guys?
I thought the action was well written. It definitely, like I said, it's all very cliche, but you could see how it would make a very good movie or very entertaining movie. I'll say that. I wouldn't mind if it had a little more thought behind it. Like there were a couple things that like people randomly finding each other, or like the teenagers randomly hear on the police radio that the girl's little sister is trapped somewhere, like like little things like that. But overall I thought it was very entertaining and I wish it had gotten made.
Yeah, and that was my next question. Do you have favorite scenes, Anthony, that we didn't talk about?
No, I think we already talked about the beginning, which is probably my favorite, the lines I like the most. I think that the script needed a rewrite to either punch up the relationships between the kids and their parents to make any of that feel like it mattered. Because like I said, they just, every time they show up in a non-action scene, it's just a fucking slog to get through. I don't care about this like very archetypal, flat, like relationship drama between these two teenagers who talk like they're 40. But overall, I agree with Issa. I think had this gotten made and it was maybe a little less goofy, because like I've been pretty open. Like I don't really like Monster Squad. I liked it as a kid, and then I rewatched it later, and I was like, I don't like any of this. Like it's too goofy at times, and I feel that way about this script too. Like there's just this inherent goofiness, and that was kind of the problem with The Predator, in my opinion too. There's just this goofiness that really keeps this script from feeling more impactful in a way. But again, I wish it got made, because this is a total movie for the 80s. This is a complete 80s movie.
Yeah. This is not a script you could do now. you couldn't just like some. I think like one of the things about when I read the Unforgiven script, for example, I was like, even if they hadn't made it when Clint made it, you could just take that screenplay from then and do it right now. Whereas I don't think you could do that with the Shadow Company.
No.
But
they would probably update it, right? Like these would be soldiers from 2004. It would be set in like the Iraq War. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Well,
you could update. You could update this story and it would work, I think. But they don't, they don't really make movies like this anymore,
Yeah.
like, so it would be tough to. Yeah.
Well, the thing that would be interesting if you were to do it now is to try and make it look like an 80s movie. If you could try to, do a period and that would be kind of fun and interesting. But I think the moment has passed. But it's too bad that it didn't get made. I think we would well, first of all, the next movie that Carpenter made was Memoirs of an Invisible Man, which was fucking terrible.
Which I've never seen. I've never seen that.
You should not see it.
Okay.
Yeah. It is.
I definitely I barely remember anything about it though.
It's not even entertaining as a bad movie, which by the way, I've heard many people say that about the new War of the Worlds with Ice Cube, and I still want to see
I saw my buddy post about that. I thought it was a fucking joke. I thought it was a meme.
Wait, that's a real thing?
That's a real fucking movie with Ice Cube.
I will see that immediately. That sounds great.
It's on Amazon. It went straight to Amazon Prime.
I didn't even hear about it. That's crazy.
He's adding it in there right now.
Was serious. Well, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a fucking joke.
I thought it was a joke too, but it's a real thing. Well, and so here's the thing. Well, War of the Worlds is in public domain, so it can get remade a bazillion times, and no one can do anything about it. The thing about Shadow Company is, I think, as one of those scripts that I just think it's legendary, and it's one that I'm glad we talked about it. I'm glad we read it.
Yeah.
But
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Is there any other fan casting of the things? I mean, it was the early 80s, so I'm just gonna cast Leah Thompson as Heather, I guess. But I don't know. Stark, I think, needed a Lee Marvin or somebody like that, like some older, gruff, tough guy. I think Woodhurst and both Woodhurst and Stark needed somebody like that. So
yeah, like that's why I said, like maybe like Donald Sutherland or somebody of that ilk. I was thinking while we were talking, maybe for Stark, a young William Forsythe might work. We love a William Forsythe in this house. So
yeah.
I also thought
Cadbury has told me that before.
Exactly. He's a big fan of virtuosity.
Those two characters could have just been one character. Like I didn't see the need for both of them to exist in the script, but
that's a great point. No, that's a really good point because they kind of serve the same function.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's funny because I think one of the scenes that comes off as unnecessary in the script, but could have been one of the best things in the movie, is that recorder scene with Pollard, because if Kurt Russell gets to do it, it could be great, but in the script it comes off as wonky, and that's one of the things about performance that can save something. You have to sometimes you have to read a script thinking like, okay, I got to give an actor this and they're going to make it better,
Yeah.
And
which oftentimes happens. It happens a lot.
Yeah, if you've ever read the script of Memento, there's like a couple scenes in there that you're just like, when you read it, you're like, no, and then Guy Pearce sells it, because he's Guy freaking Pearce. So
right.
Yeah. And have you ever seen Lockup or Lockout, Issa?
What's that?
It's Guy Pearce with the space jail.
I don't think I have.
Oh, you need to see that. Speaking of Die Hard ripoff movies.
Well, wasn't it also hailed as like an escape from New York ripoff too. Isn't that the movie that got like
That's the
blasted by
movie
the
that John
Carpenter
Carpenter
estate?
sued Luc Besson over. Yeah.
Oh, that now rings a bell.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
may have seen it and completely forgotten. I will watch it.
I fucking, that is a guilty pleasure movie for me that I love, and I've watched it. I just watched it a couple weeks ago, but it also has Peter Stormare in it. And anytime anytime you have Peter Stormare playing a villain.
I rewatched 8mm recently because I love 8mm, but man, he's so good in that.
Yeah.
He's so good in 8mm.
You and Carrie and I are the 8mm respect society. Like there's not enough of us, but I love it.
Did you know that script sold for like $1 million?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I was like,
right after 7.
Oh, that was the time to write scripts, guys. Was the early to mid 90s. What a time to be alive.
What a time. All right, so I think the only other, we talked about how we feel this. How do you think this would have fit into the John Carpenter canon, Anthony?
It would have fit well. Like I really think it would have. I'm not going to put them in order or anything, but I think it would have been a good addition.
Certainly better than Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Man, David hates that movie.
Yeah, I don't remember that movie enough to hate it. You do, but I always like Daryl Hannah.
Better than Ghosts of Mars. I can go on.
Ghosts of Mars is garbage, and Vampires is not great. The Ward is god awful. Did either of you see The Ward?
I did not see it, but
that was the last movie he ever directed. Look, Cigarette Burns, not a movie. Our TV episode, banger. Cigarette Burns is a fucking banger.
I agree.
But yeah, The Ward is garbage. I think I agree with Issa. It would have fit well either before or after They Live, because it does kind of have elements of Assault on Precinct 13 that I think Carpenter does really well. And it's got humor like They Live. Heavy, you know he's not gonna have CCR in the beginning though. It's just gonna be a heavy synth soundtrack that he wrote.
Yeah, I actually think CCR works there. So
it does. But I don't know if John Carpenter feels that way, because he'd be writing his
that way. Yeah.
He'd be writing his music all himself. Which and I guess we're forgetting In the Mouth of Madness, which I haven't seen in a while, but
In the Mouth of Madness holds up. But
does it?
Yes, it does. I think, now Shane Black. Where does it fit in the Shane Black mythos? I think it fits really well in there. I actually think Fred Dekker would have been a better director for this, probably, than John Carpenter, actually, in reality. And because I think he could have stayed closer to that goofball tone. But who knows? I mean, Carpenter did comedy well. I think Starman is an equally funny movie that gets underrated for its humor too. So, but that's a Carpenter movie many people forget about, and I love Starman. So,
I think it would have fit in Monster Squad era.
Yeah.
It was like the classic 80s TV show with a different different actor, different everything as well.
Yeah. It was Robert Hayes from Airplane played Starman in the TV show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hey, I was Starman enough of a fan that I was one of the 4 people who watched that TV show every week.
I was one of the other 4 apparently.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But
anything science fiction on TV, I was the sucker for. So
All right. Well, on that note, my final assessment is that I, as an unproduced screenplay, I give Shadow Company. I'm going to grade up a curve and give it 4 out of 5, just because I think it could have been a ridiculous 80s movie, and for the exact reason that you said, Issa, I could see it in my head while I was reading it, and that is a mark of a good screenplay. I don't necessarily think it would have been a 4-star movie, but as a screenplay, I think it was, probably 3.5. Let's say 3.5.
I think we are all reading it and giving it the benefit of the doubt, it definitely had a lot of things that it needed another draft or two
Yeah.
for sure. There were characters that just weren't complete. It felt very first draft, even though I understand it wasn't a first draft. But it also, you can already see it would be a fun movie to watch. So, it's a mixed bag.
Yeah. Anthony, final judgment?
I give it like a 3, maybe a 3.5, just because I really like a lot of the way I like Shane Black's writing style. It made it. This was probably one of the fastest screenplay reads I've ever done. But I gotta knock it down at least a 1.5 stars, or maybe, I don't know, 3.5, or maybe 3. Because again, I hate to beat a dead horse, but the kid stuff, the teenager stuff, is just so not necessary, and it gets real goofy in a way that I find irritating later on. But yeah, I think it's a solid. I think it's a solid draft that needs another pass.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so if you made it this far, folks, and you're a listener, and that there's some unproduced screenplays that maybe you think we should read, you can always comment on the YouTube video and make suggestions. There's a couple that I have circled on my list. I definitely think we want to do Oliver Stone's draft of Conan, which is very, very, very different from the final movie. I think that's one we got to do. I think Ridley Scott's The Train. I've been trying to find that screenplay, and the Arnold Schwarzenegger draft of I Am Legend is one that I've wanted to do. Hey, Ridley Scott was going to direct that, which makes it a really weird, in the like late 80s. Ridley Scott, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I Am Legend. It sounds interesting. I don't know how. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll read it.
Well,
and I'll read that Conan
there,
script. Give me an excuse to watch Conan again.
Yeah, exactly. That might be our next one, I think. I've read the Oliver Stone script before, and it is bonkers. So I'm interested to see what you guys think of it. It's hard to imagine that they could have made that movie in 1980. It's hard to believe that they would have the special effects budget to make that movie now. But I guess with CGI, you can do just about anything. But definitely, it's a banana script, so that might be one that's out there. But yeah, so on that note, Issa, you and I will probably be convening for Strange New Worlds here soon. But
okay, I'll have watched it by the end. I haven't started yet, but I will watch it before the ending. You know how I like to do it. I roll in and I binge watch it and then get the finale in.
Yeah, I got to find out if Sarah's available now that she's globetrotting. We might have to do some weird timing on that.
For sure.
But on that note, and you guys, I don't know, Issa, are you not watching Alien Earth at all? Like,
I haven't started yet. It's not all out, right? There's still
no, it's not.
Yeah, I can't roll like that. It's just my short-term memory is too bad for that. I'll forget what happened in a week. So,
Yeah. And
I'm enjoying it.
I killed most of my I killed like I think all of my streaming subscriptions when I moved. So I've been just going to Movie Madness and watching like my stupid amount of movies from my movie collection. So
oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it. But if you get Hulu for like a week when the show comes out, Anthony, maybe we'll cover Alien Earth.
Well, I'll listen. I will do that when the show is done, so me and Issa can both binge it at the same time.
That's how you're.
And then I can cancel my membership, and then we can show up and do it. I'm super down for Alien Earth, though. I'm hella down.
Well,
cool. Awesome.
You heard it here first, folks. We'll have to do that. Yeah, I'm trying to get back into doing more postcards because the whole fact of the matter is I took a couple months off and I'll never make it to episode 200, which I don't know what I'm going to do for 200, but I'm going to get to 200 very soon. So, but yeah, more unproduced screenplays probably in a month or two. So probably Conan. So folks, if you want to go out there and read it before us and meet us back here, that will work too. So on that note, folks, we'll be back, I think, coming up soon. I've got Rachel Baum with her new feminist body horror novel called The Brood. I thought it was weird doing a body horror novel with the same title as a David Cronenberg movie, but it's pretty good. And we'll be talking to her soon. And we always have the live Dickheads podcast every Tuesday night over at the Dick Hangout. So people can find me there every Tuesday. And you can be a part of that conversation. We've got Sylvia Park coming up, the author of Luminous, and that is the best robot novel I have read in a long time. So I highly recommend that to people. It takes place in United Korea in the future. It's very good. So on that note, folks, we'll see you next time. Anthony, Issa, do you want anyone to find you?
Yeah. I'm on Facebook. That's where I don't do social media really.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. That's
Yep.
basically the only thing I use. So
a lot of show pictures, but less so since you've been in Portland. You've gone to a couple shows since you've been there.
I've been to one concert.
That's it?
Concert. I have another one on Monday. So
okay.
So yeah, more concert photography shit, and then probably like I don't know. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Lurk the Void. I mostly shit post.
On is it a novel or novella that? Oh, we're not talking about that. Well,
You remember what happened last time?
I read an amazing first chapter of that.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. It's banger. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, remember what happened last time? We talked about something too soon. Let's not do that again.
Let's not do that. Okay, but there's something I shouldn't talk about that's really good. All right. On that note, folks, we'll see you next time. And remember what is good in life for that. All right. We'll see you soon.